Because I have my most attentive audience of the year, 4 quick announcements. First, I know that although it seems like Sukkot won't be here before we know it, just like to remind everybody that Sukkah Fest is on its way, Sunday, September 19th at 11 a.m. For those of you who have never been, it is in loving memory of Ira Altfeder, and it's a beautiful outdoor music concert. So we hope you will join us and help us to prepare our Sukkah. Many, many Sukkah events going on. My personal preference, ribeyes with the rabbis. Hope you'll join me for that too. Of course, you've by now seen our Erev Simchat Torah flyer, and we hope you'll join us Erev Simchat Torah the night of September 28th for Hakafot. But please note, we are blessed as a community to be able to honor Ron and Sherry Judenberg this year as our Chatan Torah and Kalat Breshit. So we hope you will join us at Simchat Torah morning in honor of them as well. Our Lil Mod kickoff Jewish education event, which is very apropos of Norman's remarks this morning and my remarks this morning and tomorrow, will be about understanding and responding to anti-Semitism. That's going to be Tuesday, October 12th at 7 p.m. In conjunction with the Anti-Defamation League. And last but not least, I will be teaching a Melton course this year, brand new, with both virtual and in-person options available. The class is The Ethics of Jewish Living, something very timely for our times. And that will begin on Sunday, October 24th at 11 a.m. Lots of announcements swirling around. You can certainly look on your seats and certainly in your e-blasts that you get at home for more information. With that behind us, it's now time to transition to the very beginning of our Musaf service. And I want to say, Robin, this is a bigger house than you played to last year. And yet everybody was so really touched by the beautiful way in which you led us in davening this past year. Your davening managed to penetrate even people's homes and cameras. And I have no doubt it will continue to do so this year as well. Robin is going to lead us in Hineni on page 140, after which I'm going to invite our Ruach singers to once again join me on the lower bima. And I will descend from the bima as Robin walks down the aisle leading us in Hineni, page 140.
Hineni he'ani נרשת ונבחדת מפחד יושב תהילות ישראל באתי לעמוד ולהתחנן לפניך על עמך ישראל אשר שלחוני אף על פי שאני כדאית והגונה לך. לכן אבקש ממך, אלוהי אברהם, אלוהי יצחק, ואלוהי יעקב, אלוהי שרה, אלוהי רבקה, אלוהי רחל ואלוהי לאה. אדוני אדוני אל רחום וחנון אלוהי ישראל שדי היום ונורא היינה מצליח דרכי אשר אנוכי הולכת לעמוד ובקש רחמים עלי ועל שולחי ונע אל תפשיעם בחטאותי ואל תכוון בעוונותי כי חוטא ופושע אני ואל יחלמו בפשעי ואל יבושו בי ואל יבושו בהם וקבל תפילתי כי תפילת רגילה וקולו נעים ופרחת נעד ומערב את בדת עם הבריות ותיגר בשטן ויסתינני והנה דגלוגנו עליך יהבה ועל כל פשעים תכסה באהבה וכל צרות ורעות הפוך לנו לכל ישראל לששון ולשמחה לחיים ולשלום האמת ושלום אהבו ולא יהי שום מכשול בתפילתי ויהי רצון מלפניך אדוני אלוהי אברהם יצחק ויעקב שרה רבקה רחל ולאה האל הגדול הגיבור והנורא אל עליון אהיה אשר אהיה שתבוא תפילתי לפני כיסא כבודך בעבור כל הצדיקים והחסדים והתמימים והישרים ובעבור כבוד שמך הגדול והנורא כי אתה שומע תפילת עמך ישראל ברחמים ברוך אתה שומע תפילה. Thank you.
525,600 minutes, 525,000 moments so dear, 525,600 minutes. How do you measure a year? In daylights, in sunsets, in midnights, in cups of coffee, in inches, in miles, in laughter, in strife. In 525,600 minutes, how do you measure a year in life?
Now, aren't you glad I can't sing well? Otherwise, I would be in New York singing for the play Rent, and you would be creating a committee to find a new rabbi. It's all about what's doing best for Eitz Chaim. Friends, we come together this Rosh Hashanah after 525,600 minutes to discuss how we are going to measure a year in a life. Only the question I want to ask today is whether we will spend this Rosh Hashanah looking forward or looking backward. Because if we look backward, we know what we're going to see and we're not going to like it. We counted 525,600 minutes until we could rip off our masks, only to put them on again. We counted well over 525,600 losses in this country that filled our hearts with so much sadness over laughter. If we have children, we probably did drink 525,000 600 cups of coffee or bourbon, making it safe to say that this was not a year measured in moments that we were experiencing, but in moments that we were missing. Yet Rosh Hashanah marks for us a new beginning, the moment of a new year, the opportunity to count and to measure again. The 15th century Jewish philosopher known as the Akedat Yitzchak teaches that prior to the creation of the world, there was no such thing, no such concept as time. Prior to Rosh Hashanah, there was no yesterday, today, or tomorrow. But each time we come to Rosh Hashanah, the creation of the world, it is as if the concept of time is created for us once again, as we are given a chance to renew and to reprioritize how we are going to make our time meaningful in the new year. The philosopher Kierkegaard once said that time may be understood backward, but we must live it going forward, which must be the purpose of our coming together today after this year. After a year where we counted eagerly to the day's end rather than to the day's beginning, we must ask ourselves, how are we once again going to value our time? How are we going to open ourselves up to the possibilities of the new year? How are we going to live our lives forward rather than always looking backward? 525,600 moments so dear, 525,600 minutes. How are we going to value this very year? This year as Jews, we must promise ourselves that we will value our moments not by letting them pass us by, but by remembering the words of the poet who once said that yesterday is history, tomorrow the future is a mystery, but every day, today we can call a gift. That is why it is called the present. The pandemic reminded us how easy it could be in a year to squander our time away. We could continue to let ourselves slip away into a Netflix-induced coma. Here I speak from personal experience. I officially have nothing left to watch on television. But is that really the way that we want to spend every day of our lives? Guard your spare moments well, said Ralph Waldo Emerson. They are like uncut diamonds. If you discard them, then their true value will never be known. But if you improve them, they will prove to be the brightest gems in your most useful life. Rosh Hashanah charges us to ask how we will once again use our time more wisely than we have been. We must once again return the time we have to good use. Each moment is an endless possibility for love, for sunsets, and yes, for outdoor socially distanced cups of coffee. Hayom, we're going to say, today is a gift, it is a present. It's an opportunity for us to bring holiness to every moment, but only if we seize those moments to live a useful life. 525,600 moments so dear, 525,600 minutes. How will we value this year? Why is it important that we seize the moment? There's an old story about a man who prays to God and asks, God, what's a million years like to you? God responds that a million years to me is like a single moment. The man then asks without missing a beat, well, that's $1 million. What's $1 million like to you? God replies, $1 million to me is like a penny. So the man asks God, may I have a penny? God says, sure, in a moment. As human beings, we have never been all that good at valuing or appreciating our time until it is too late. In Voltaire's book, Zadig, the Grand Magi asks what it is that is humankind's most precious asset. Voltaire despairs. He says, it is, of course, time. We all neglect time and then we regret the loss of it, and yet nothing we can do can be done without it. Which is why this year we must restore the value to our time by recognizing that the time we have is ultimately quite limited, and therefore each moment worthy of our seizing it. In the biblical book Kohelet, Ecclesiastes says there is a season for every experience under sun, a time for each experience under heaven. It's a model of life in which we are assured that we will have time for everything, not to worry. Only Israel's former poet laureate Yehuda Amichai reminds us this is simply not true. Adam b'chayav, he teaches, a person doesn't have enough time in his or her life to have time for everything. A person doesn't have enough time for every purpose under heaven. Kohelet, he writes, was wrong, which is why we must learn to love and hate at the same time, to laugh and to cry with the same set of eyes, to eat and to digest in just moments what it takes history years and years to do. History, friends, is endless. History is full of time. But Amichai reminds us that whether our world is in shambles, in the middle of a pandemic or not, that when it comes to us eventually, it doesn't matter. We're all going to run out of time. Lo alecha, Pirkei Avot teaches, we must start the task even if we're not going to finish it, because we're never going to have the time we want. That's why we must take this upcoming year to make the most of the moments that we do. 525,600 moments so dear. 525,600 minutes. How are we going to measure this year? As Jews, we have a built-in mechanism for appreciating and valuing our time. They are called the Jewish holidays. So much so that Rabbi Abraham Joshua Heschel says that, quote, all of Judaism is a religion of time aimed at the sanctification of that time, those very moments. What does Rosh Hashanah mean? Head of the year. It's a sanctification of time. The nearly forgotten summer holiday of Shavuot means weeks, another demarcation of time. Yom Kippur, Yom HaShoah, Yom Huledet Sameach. Even when we come to a painful moment in our lives, where we mark that moment where our loved one left us, what do we call it in Yiddish? Yortzeit. Yortzeit means it's that time of the year. That is why beginning this Rosh Hashanah, we must take a clue from our holidays, valuing our time not by spending it cynically looking through printed headlines and news reports, but by seeing the world through the people we gather close to us in our lives, and by finding ways, even in challenging times, to celebrate seasons of love with people we care about, not only, if I may say, over laughter and cups of coffee, but with kiddush and hamotzi. Our Jewish holidays remind me of another source of wisdom. It's an old bronze ox. It's been standing on the beach in Kunming Lake in China for 8 centuries. And it has this poem. Oh, this little strip of light between night and another night. Let me please keep it bright today. And let no shadow of tomorrow in sorrow from the dead of yesterday deny the happiness I feel being with my loved ones today. And if tomorrow shall be sad or never come at all, I'll have had them at least for this moment, this very moment today. 525,600 moments so dear. 525,600 minutes. How will we measure this year? Author David Brooks writes that, God willing, once this pandemic is behind us, we will enter a decade that will be known as the American Renaissance. Meaning, like you, I remain hopeful. Soon, if we all work together, we may measure this coming year in the great hope and the possibilities that are contained in today, Rosh Hashanah. We've all learned to spend our time a little bit differently. We've been reminded that life is short, experienced daily routines that were slower paced, more rooted and more domestic. Millions of Americans, he writes, seem ready to change their lives and to be more in touch with what our values really are. The only question we are left with this Rosh Hashanah, for you in this room and at home, and yes, I'm talking to you, the only person on our membership list that I sent that postcard to earlier, and not to our entire list, is whether you are ready to be part of that renaissance in the way that we value and cherish our time. Will this be a year in which we remember that our lives are full of 525,600 potential moments for holiness? Will we remember that there is no greater gift we have been given than the irreplaceable gift of today? Will we let time pass us by, or will we gather our loved ones close to us to celebrate? As we understand time backward, how this year will we truly live it forward?
525,600 minutes, 525,000 moments so dear, 525,600 minutes. How do you measure a year? In daylights, in sunsets, in midnights, in cups of coffee, in inches, in miles, in laughter and strife. In 525,600 minutes, how will you measure this year in your life?
Lashana Tova.